Good evening, Texas bikers and bikers all across the nation. This is Texas Biker Radio, number 344. My name is Mel Popeye Moss. My co-host, Mel OG Robbins. We are with Sons of Liberty Riders MC, and we are here giving this podcast each and every week. And we are sponsors of this program along with a few of our friends. And good evening, Mel. How are you doing?
Doing great. Very amused at the news today, but we'll get into that.
All you got to do is wait 24 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
It never gets boring.
But Mel, I'm looking forward to today's podcast because we're going to be talking about an interesting subject, and it would be the Houston gang unit, who we understand has added us to their list. Sons of Liberty Riders MC, our Houston chapter, as a support club. And we've told everybody many times, yeah, we're a support club. We're a support club of the Constitution. Period. We are a support club of the Constitution and those who've had their constitutional rights violated. And that would include bikers, and that would include citizens that have had their rights violated. Just to point out a couple of citizens that have had their constitutional rights violated would be the citizens of Sand Branch, Texas, who've been denied clean drinking water for over 30 years by their local government. We've fought for the rights of people on all sides to be able to display their yard signs without having their property destroyed. And the list runs on and on and on, and including raising money to bury a veteran that was going to end up in a pauper's grave. We, along with the help of some other friends, raised enough money to have him have a proper burial within the DFW National Cemetery. The list runs on and on of the things we do. And that includes getting involved in the mess that went on in Waco, where hundreds of motorcyclists, innocent motorcyclists, were arrested without probable cause, without due process. Hence, they had their constitutional rights violated. This is when we show up. And Mel, do you want to explain how we ended up on that list?
Yeah, this goes along with the endless and mind-boggling propaganda that law enforcement continues to put out there about the coalition of clubs. In Texas, we call it the Texas Coalition of Clubs and Independents. In other states, it's called the Coalition of Clubs. And, if any of you that have been following us have seen us use the term lately, are you, ignorant or stupid? And we've started using that because we felt, well, let's give some of these guys out there the benefit of the doubt, and maybe they're just ignorant. They don't know any better. And they're being fed some phony information, some bad data. They're buying into it, and they're going forward with it. So if they're ignorant, we're going to try and educate them. Now, if they continue it after we've educated them, they have proved beyond the shadow of a doubt just how freaking stupid they are. or how stupid they think the public is. But, they have for decades now talked about how the coalition of clubs everywhere is nothing more than an OMG-run organization, which couldn't be further from the truth. And as a matter of fact, we will probably, as you and I were discussing, be fishing for that transcript from the trial down in San Antonio, the federal trial that took place around February of this year, wherein an FBI special agent was on the stand being questioned by the U.S. attorney about the coalition of clubs, and he flat out stated the coalition of clubs is not a gang-related organization. They are strictly a political organization. Political being what we get involved in is legislative bills, dealing with motorcycle safety and around the motorcycle community. We work on that every year, trying to get bills passed relative to helmet laws, dead red, motorcycle profiling, lane splitting, you name it. That's what we're all about. So, all of you law enforcement people out there that might be listening to this right now, we are trying to teach you exactly what in the hell a COC is all about. And just because clubs are on the boards, the governing boards of these organizations, and I know many guys that are on the boards of different regions and states in the COC that are absolutely independent motorcycle clubs, have nothing to do with anything that you would call an OMG, but because they're on the board and because all of this false propaganda is being put forth about the COC, you're starting to tag organizations like us as being support clubs, which couldn't be further from the frickin' truth. I would challenge you to check it out. Check it out thoroughly. As a matter of fact, we even invited a law enforcement officer into a COC meeting we had in Arlington not too long ago, and they refused. Now, how stupid is that? That's not even ignorant. That is stupid. That was a chance for this guy to see who was there and actually what was going on.
Yep, I was standing there.
You're the one that gave him the invitation.
That's right. I was standing there. Come on back. We're not doing nothing you shouldn't see. There's nothing going on in there you shouldn't see. But Mel, he did not want to see it. He wanted to believe the narrative that he's been told. He didn't want to see anything different, Mel. And you'd have blown his bubble. That's right. And let me inject one other thing here. The COC, the Texas Legislative Strike Force, which are the most effective legislative entities for motorcyclists in Texas, and they collaborate with ABATE, MRF, AMA, TxDOT. The list runs on and on. It's the FBI gentleman you're talking about that testified that the COCI was a legitimate political organization. His name is Scott Schuster, Mel. That's his name. And yes,
okay.
We're gonna get that transcript if it's available to now that the trial is over and it's been some time. So we'll see if it's available to us to get it, so we can use it to educate police officers out there, especially the ones in these gang units that listen to this narrative that's spewed by the DPS and others again and again and again. It's incredible, but let's go ahead and move on to some truths. Are you ready?
Sure.
Yeah. First of all, and I wrote this in an article. Matter of fact, Mel, it's called, what is it called? It's called Houston Gang Unit, Ignorant or Stupid. It's that simple. But in it, I wrote some truths, and number one was what I just said about the COCI, and another truth is Sons of Liberty Riders MC are not forced to become members or forced to pay dues. We sought them out because of their stellar legislative work. I mean, Mel, this is what we do. It was a fit. And Mel, another truth, MCs are the most likely to threaten law enforcement or the public. I mean, our videos show compliance, courtesy in the face of sometimes hostile encounters with law enforcement. I mean, no biker is surely going to attack law enforcement and citizens as the DPS suggested in Waco. And that's a sticking point there, because they use Waco as an example, even though Waco fell apart. All their narrative fell apart in Waco, but yet they still continue to push it. They still can continue to push it. Its narrative's made up of hype and innuendos, and it's a narrative used to harass, jail, take property, and convict, if possible, even those innocent of crimes. And that's what we saw in Waco. And that's the reason we got involved. Mel, another truth. Motorcycle clubs are not street gangs. Now, law enforcement knows this. They know it. But then again, it's pushing the narrative that they've been pushing for decades.
You know what I think of, and I think what a lot of people think of when you say street gang, is like MS-13.
Right. That's right. Mel, you can go into the Houston News archives, and you can see these gang units that they like to throw out there. Matter of fact is, just type in Houston gangs. Just type in those two words, Google it, and see what pops up. It'll show you the Houston gang units and all their successes, and working with ICE and former gang members and all this other stuff. You don't see a single motorcyclist in it, Mel. Not one in all these gangs. These thousands of people that they're arresting, and Mel, I don't know where they're sending them to. I have no clue.
Yeah.
But they're rounding them all up. But Mel, I would love to see the data that shows how many of all those people they're arresting, and it's in the thousands, how many are actually bikers. I promise you that number is minuscule, and we'll look for it. And Mel, let me state another truth, and I want you to comment on this. Sons of Liberty Riders MC, Texas Biker Radio News, we do investigate what we call outlaw public officials. OPOs is what we call them. I mean, this can be law enforcement of any kind and politicians at every level, especially those that operate outside of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. This is what we do. And we go ahead.
I was going to say, and unfortunately, the statistics, and it's been acknowledged by those that have published the statistics about OPOs, outlaw politicians and outlaw law enforcement, crimes that are committed by law enforcement personnel throughout the country. The statistics, the people that are publishing these statistics have outright said publicly that this may be but the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. Their problem being so much crime is covered up within law enforcement because they don't want it made public, because of what we call the thin blue line, where you've got brothers protecting each other. Well, we believe in brothers protecting each other too, but there's a time to do it and a time not to. And if you've got somebody that's got a badge on that took an oath to protect and serve, and if they're conducting criminal activities, there is no way they should be protected. But they are. And that's the biggest problem. So you can figure statistically, any statistics that are published relative to outlaw law enforcement or crime being committed within law enforcement, and I'm talking not just ground level police. We're talking district attorneys, judges, public officials, you name it. Any statistic that is published, you can probably have a multiplier factor in there and let your imagination be your guide with that one. Because it could be 5 times, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. There is no way to tell because you never know how big that frickin' iceberg is.
Exactly. Exactly, Mel. It's incredible. Mel, another truth. Let's keep it going. Because of our mission, we do make contact with all types of MCs, and that would include the so-called OMGs. I mean, it's the only way to seek out the truth in a sea of lies perpetrated by law enforcement. Because if we want the truth, we're not going to go to them. That's for damn sure, because we won't get it. We've tried that. But Mel, just because somebody's labeled an OMG or whatever, or 1%, or whatever you want to use, that don't mean they lose their civil rights.
Well, let's talk about specifically what a 1% club is. A 1% club came into being because of Hollister,
right,
California, the event in Hollister. And that's because the American Motorcycle Association said that 99% of all motorcyclists were law-abiding citizens. Well, what they were talking about with the outlaw situation was the AMA liked to run a pretty tight rein over motorcycle rallies, hill climbs, races, things like that. And anybody that put on any events outside of their preview, it was considered an outlaw because the AMA didn't have control of it. And that is specifically what they were referring to, because they had no knowledge of who'd committed any crimes within their community. They were talking about the outlaw bikers that were doing hill climbs, races, things like that. So that's when the bikers that didn't particularly care for the AMA said, well, hell, then we're an outlaw. We're 1%. And that's where it came from. The 1% didn't come because they were committing actual crimes. It came from they were doing their own thing, rallies and races and things like that. So that has carried on as a tradition. Your typical motorcycle club today, whether they wear the 1% patch, which you call a Diamond 13, which a lot of people have seen those, or they choose not to wear any of that stuff, are basically good people. All the people that you and I have met, and we have been in multiple states, Popeye, because we have charters in other states. We operate in 4 states right now.
Right.
Technically 5. And we have multiple chapters, so we deal with different clubs across the country. Every one, without exception, they have all been gentlemen.
Yes.
They've treated us well, invited us into their clubhouse, extended brotherhood, friendship, the whole bit. And, we have never felt uncomfortable. It's been great. It's like one big family out there. And that's all they're really about. Are there criminals running around that ride motorcycles? Well, hell yeah. But there are a hell of a lot of criminals running around that are packing a gun and wearing a badge.
Exactly.
Or, wielding a mallet in a court of law. Or, being a prosecutor. Got lots of those criminals too. So
yes.
Everyone has a bad apple or two in their barrel.
Yeah.
The issue is, and we know we've talked about it with a lot of clubs. A lot of these clubs are looking within, and if they're identifying bad apples, they're tossing them out. I have yet to hear any police department or county prosecutor, U.S. prosecutor, anybody in law enforcement talking about, hey, we're looking for the bad apples that operate within our organization, and we're going to toss them the hell out of here. The only one that said anything near that is President Trump when he's talking about draining the swamp, because that's one of the things he's alluding to.
Right. Hey, Mel, let me give an example of bumping into people that you didn't expect to bump into because of what we do. I mean, it was like when the DPS sent out the bulletin to the Fort Worth Police Department and other agencies that the Mongols were coming to the stockyards. And that there was going to be 700 of them, and you're going to be on the lookout. All this stuff. So what do? That Saturday morning, I go over to the SA's house. I said, "Come on, geezer, let's go to Fort Worth and see what's going on." There's supposed to be all kinds of stuff going on. 700 Mongols. Let's go see the reaction of the police, because this is who we look at. We're not looking at the biker clubs. We're looking at the reaction of the police and whether what they're saying is true. So we go up to the stockyards, and we just happened to run into an incident that was going on with Vagos MC members. Now, those members were inside Wilson's Leather Goods, and they were complying. The law enforcement showed up, and the Vagos MC members were complying with every demand the officers made when they pulled a gun on them, because one couldn't get his arm high enough. But we were there to film it. We were there to get the word out. Hey, this is what you can expect when you come to Fort Worth. Their gang unit right there was spreading the word that they own the city of Fort Worth.
Which I think was a disgusting remark to make.
It was disgusting. The whole thing was disgusting. So we put it out there, and we've also gone back to Fort Worth again and again and again. And we also discovered that there was not 700 Mongols within the stockyards. Nowhere near it. It was hype put out by the DPS. And the Fort Worth police reacted to it. And so what do? They contact the news media, and then it goes on from there, where they go down to restaurants and bars and beg them to bar people wearing cuts. I mean, this is how we have contact with other groups. We bump into them all the time. If we go to a rally, we're going to bump into them. And yes, with MCs, in the MC world, it's all about respect. You give it, you get it.
Get respect.
Exactly. And Mel, let's state another truth here. We do get involved in political campaigns. You can ask Abel Reyna. We made him cry. Truth, we do carry the most powerful weapon in the land at all times, and that's a pocket constitution. Period. Now, these are the things we do. I mean, these gang units are going to be severely disappointed if they think they're going to peg us as and put us into a list, a database, whatever. If we end up there, which, Mel, I suggest that all riders in Texas see if you're in a gang database, and if you don't belong there, let's take some action.
Yeah, given the push that the governor has given lately, the DPS, which has trickled down to the different law enforcement departments around the state, that he wanted everybody possible put into that database. Start stopping all bikers and let's get everybody, all of what he supposes are criminals, into that database. So that's why there's this huge push on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Governor Abbott.
Yeah. Governor Abbott wouldn't know one gang from the other without the DPS pulling him around in his chair. Just my opinion. And I would think that is not far off. I mean, most politicians are like, they're not masters of anything. They know a little bit about something. I don't want to say everything, because that's certainly not the case. I've been around too many of them. This is what we do. And I don't care if the Houston gang unit doesn't like it. I don't care if the Fort Worth gang unit doesn't like it. I don't care if the Garland gang unit doesn't like it. Any of them. This is what we do. Again, we are supporters of the Constitution and those that have had their constitutional rights violated. And we will take action, any kind of action we can do to educate not only our members, but law enforcement as well. Because you're going off of 70 years of vilification and off of a ill-advised law, in my opinion. 61.02, Criminal Code Procedure 61.02 mandates that you get people into a database, even people that don't belong there. And that's that's our riff with the whole thing. That's right. All this has gone outside the scope of what it was intended to do. All of it. And they need to reel it into something that's logical. Something that's maybe has some common sense to it. And right now, that's not the case. Because when they mandate all these counties that has over 100,000 people in it, and if they're not signed in on the main database system, they're supposed to make one of their own. I mean, what they have is a willy-nilly system of names and clubs and data that's collected by people that are going to benefit in some way. Or maybe they're just assholes who decided, okay, this guy belongs in the database, even though he's committed no crime in his lifetime. And yes, there is such a thing as a second chance. How about that, Mel?
Yeah. Lo and behold.
Yeah. I mean, you can't keep vilifying people this long and get away with it. You can't, and we're gonna expose it. That's one of the methods we use, is to go public and expose it. That's what we did in Waco, with the help of a small group of people, including the Los Parados MC. They were brave enough to take those people on. And let me tell you, Waco could have been a dangerous place to be. Well, it was for those that were at Twin Peaks. But you know, this is where we're at today. And I think we are at a junction here. And it sets us on fire to think that law enforcement may put us into a database that we don't belong in. But we wouldn't be the only ones they're doing that to. I suggest to you it's happening every day somewhere in the states, in this country. That somebody's going into a database that they don't belong in, and we already know it's happened in Chicago.
Yeah, they actually initiated a lawsuit up there.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah. Now, do we want to talk about the Mongols a little bit?
Okay. There's a very interesting twist to the final adjudication of the Mongol trademark trial thing that the feds have been doing.
Yeah.
And you really need to pay attention to what's going on, because it kind of gives you clues as to what in the hell they're up to and what they're going to be trying next. I mean, this whole thing with the Mongol trademark has gone on for a number of years now. I think Bill said, close to 10. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's the antics of the federal government throughout this whole thing have been a lot like the episodes in Game of Thrones. They have really tried hard to remove. Now, I want you to picture in your mind, there's a difference between the patch and the trademark. Mm-hmm. The patch is a physical thing that you wear. The trademark protects that patch. In other words, no one else can make it without your permission. They can't sell it or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Now, the feds originally were attempting to get their trademark pulled, revoked, done away with, mm-hmm. to make the patch unprotected. And it withstood, a little over $1 million worth of defense there to date, probably a hell of a lot more than that. And it has withstood all of those attempts up to and including this last time, where a federal judge, even though a jury agreed with the U.S. prosecution that the trademark should be removed, which was startling. The jury also gave a verdict of guilty as far as the Mongols being involved in criminal activities as a criminal organization, which we're talking RICO here.
Right.
Now, the federal judge took a step back and said, wait a minute. You cannot violate their First Amendment rights. The Mongols, I don't care if they're guilty of criminal activities still have a First Amendment right to the trademark of that patch. So he actually, overturned the jury on that particular thing, which we felt was a great victory, and to date is still a great victory.
Yes.
But there's a couple of downsides here. The judge also put the Mongols on probation for 5 years, which, under the guilty verdict of them being guilty of criminal activities, actually involves every patch holder in the Mongol nation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wearing a Mongol patch, guess what? You're on probation for 5 years. I wouldn't get caught doing shit.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be an automatic 5-year sentence for violation of probation to begin with.
Right.
But the U.S. attorney made one final run in an attempt to make the penalty harsher than the $500,000 fine, which incidentally they have 5 years to pay off at the rate of $8,500 a month,
mm-hmm.
Which the U.S. attorney and the judge feels is not an overburden to the Mongol nation. Financially, they feel they could still file an appeal if they want to, which I'm sure there's going to be appeals flying out of this one.
Yeah.
But the U.S. attorney came at a little bit different angle here. They tried to get the judge to get the club to forfeit the patch because the patch was a symbol of their criminal activities. Now, they weren't talking about taking away the trademark anymore. Now they're talking about the patch as a badge that they're wearing while they're they've been convicted of criminal activities. Subtle little twist here, but had they gotten that on, which incidentally the judge said no, hell no, had they gotten that on, Mongols might have had a trademark, but there wouldn't have been any patches existing.
Right.
So you got to watch for that in the future because, I'm sure when this is all done with the Mongols, of course, now there's going to be appeals, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
When this is all done, they're going to start going after other clubs that have trademark patches, specifically 1% clubs. So this will be interesting to watch. But remember here, they took a different twist because the Mongols had been convicted of conducting criminal activities. The feds were now saying that patch was a symbol of those criminal activities, and they wanted the symbol forfeited, not the trademark. So that's my take on it.
Everybody, I guess, really needs to understand they need to stay out of federal court. Well, whatever you do, stay out of federal court.
Ride a Shetland pony, move fast, and stay under the radar.
Exactly.
Keep a low profile.
I wouldn't be robbing any banks or anything anytime soon. Any of that kind of stuff that's going to land you in federal court. Of course, we know that with all the alpha males running around out there, that's a tough job. That's a tough job. But let's hope everybody across the country learns from this and learns that they're coming for us. And we've got...
There is no doubt.
That's right.
There is no doubt.
That's right. Whether it's city, state, or federal levels, they're coming for us. We see it every day. We see it in these profiles that are going on. We see it as it goes beyond the scope And it's, you know, it's just not the Banditos. It's not just not the Mongols. It's just not the Hells Angels or Vagos MC or any of the other large groups like the Outlaws. It's just not them. And Mel, I think I read somewhere the other day, well, what's that crazy woman's name? AOC? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
She said
AOC.
motorcycles need to be eliminated. Now, I don't know whether that was a true statement, but I saw that out there. So don't think that it's not out there. That people don't think, you know, the squishies don't think, oh, those are too dangerous to ride. You shouldn't be on them.
They're not environmentally friendly.
Right. Not like an electric scooter, where here in Dallas the other night, somebody rode his scooter into the fountain in front of City Hall and drowned.
Yeah.
That's a true story. Riding one of those damn electric scooters that we see everywhere. But Mel, real quick, let's talk about the police chief in Fort Worth.
Okay.
Evidently, he has been in a battle, like a 3-year-long battle, with the with other government entities there in Fort Worth. Now, he didn't come out of the rank and file police officers union or group there in Fort Worth. He was brought in. And I find it incredible that these cities run all across the nation looking for police chiefs, looking for school board presidents, looking for city managers, spending all kinds of money on these bastards when they come in and just kind of screw everything up. They don't fix any problems, they actually add to it.
Yeah, I quite frankly don't understand why they don't try and look within the department, because you're getting individuals that know the community that they're serving.
Yeah. It's beyond the pale. Evidently, this police chief was going to be squealing on somebody, I think. Let me tell you, there's enough that goes on between these outlaw public officials, whether they be within the police department, within city government, within these school boards. Because I can tell you, Fort Worth is all about enriching themselves and their family members. Oh, yeah. Probably if I took a little while to study it, and I know some of the main characters over there that are involved in enriching themselves. Can I say Agenda 21? Can I say Panther Island, where they're already investigating the way the money's spent on that? You know, Mel, we passed by that bridge going over to the stockyards that they've been working on. I think there's 4 guys working on that bridge that they've been working on for 2 years.
Yeah, some of these construction projects that I've seen around here are a true mystery.
Exactly. And we'll see how long it takes them to build that intersection there by Six Flags.
I mean, I swear some of these construction projects are taking longer than the Egyptians did to build a pyramid.
Hey, Mel, I need to take a picture of where they're dredging this pond near my home. They've been on the job now for 3 months, and that pond is not very big. But today they added another piece of equipment. I noticed it this morning. So a lot of this that goes on, and especially the school boards, can be the most dangerous, because they will come after you when you catch them. They'll file suits against you. They'll do everything they can do if you catch them in their dirty deeds. And school boards are all about fighting over contracts. Who's in control? It's a crazy thing, Mel.
Well, there are some pretty damn good pay scales relative to some of these school superintendents and things. I mean, some of these people make more than CEOs of major corporations.
And let me tell people around the nation here, the schools now, we look at our school taxes, the way they're collected. They now build Taj Mahals for high schools. They build $80 million stadiums, state-of-the-art stadiums. And it's only a matter of time before we get our first domed high school football stadium. Matter of fact, you could consider the one in Frisco that the Cowboys put together as a domed high school football stadium. That they conned the city of Frisco into paying for, or partially paying for it. Incredible stuff. But we digress. And Mel, we're going on 49 minutes.
No.
It's heck when you're having fun.
Yeah. It's been fun today.
That's right. Everybody, we'll be talking about this stuff again. We'll be monitoring the situation in Houston, in Dallas, in Fort Worth, in Garland. Hang with us. It's going to be fun. This is Butch Popeye Moss, Mel OG Robbins, with Sons of Liberty Riders MC. We are proud members and we are defenders of the Constitution and those who've had their constitutional rights violated.
Ride safe.
Ride safe. Let me say this. Not a single Sons of Liberty Riders MC member out of the Houston chapter has been profiled. For the Houston Police Department or the Houston Police Department gang unit to add the Sons of Liberty Riders MC organization into any sort of criminal database is wrong. And we will seek redress because we've been denied due process.